And we are live and in living color, of course, on a Monday following Monday Night Raw, a huge Monday Night Raw for a specific WWE superstar. Of course, I'm referring to the former WWE Women's World Champion, Naomi. We heard about the speculation. We heard the rumblings and the rumors and the innuendo all over the internet, of course, on WWE TV as well, as to what this huge announcement was going to be. Now, Naomi, having gone through a whole character arc throughout her entire career, in and out of the WWE, we know that she spent some time in TNA as their Knockouts champion, but having made her return at the 2024 Royal Rumble event, it seemed like we were on the cusp of something great. Naomi, who again has been a stalwart for the women's division, made her return following her little exodus outside in TNA. It would be there that we'd see her team up with the likes of Bianca Belair, team up with Jade Cargill, forming the Big Three, laying down the foundations, planting the seeds for what would come to a head this past summer. Naomi, of course, developed a little bit of jealousy because of the partnership between Jade and Naomi. And on top of that, we saw the attack of Jade Cargill. And it led to, well, who attacked Jade? The chief, person that was in line with being guilty was, of course, Liv Morgan and Raquel. But a lot of people understood, it's probably going to be Naomi. And it was. It turned out to be Naomi. Has a good heel turn. Faces off against Jade Cargill. Has their feud. I think later down the line we're going to get Naomi versus Bianca Belair. I'll get to that in a bit here as well. But then with that heel turn, saw the wave of momentum that followed into Money in the Bank. She would win the contract and would cash in that contract at Evolution, defeating, I guess, both Rhea and Io in the triple threat match. And everything was looking fine. Everything was looking great for Naomi. She was going to be a top heel in the company. Finally being pushed prominently, not unlike what she was back on SmackDown several years ago. But then we saw that she wasn't active on Raw. We saw that she was advertised against Io Sky for that women's world title, and she was pulled due to not being medically cleared. And initially, everyone's immediately thinking injury. We're thinking injury. We're thinking, what happened? Is she going to have to relinquish the title? Is she going to have to vacate the title? We saw rumblings that maybe there was a pregnancy. I was of the group where it's like, I don't know. I believe when I see it, right? We didn't see anything regarding an injury, but at the same time, a pregnancy. I mean, wow, what timing is that, right? Until finally tonight, Monday Night Raw, the state of the world title was addressed. And of course, Naomi. The moment we saw Naomi and Jimmy in that sit-down interview on the podcast with Stephanie McMahon, the look that Naomi gave Jimmy, immediately I knew, okay, yeah, she's pregnant. The look she gave him. I had my doubts, but right then and there I knew, okay, no, she's pregnant. So it's official. A new member of the bloodline will be coming soon. For Naomi and Jimmy, big congratulations. Initially, I'm thinking, wow, what timing, because she's on top of the world right now, one of the major heels, finally getting her due as a world champion. But at the same time, it's great news. Major congrats to Naomi and to Jimmy Uso for having their first child together. When she's ready, she'll come back. She'll probably get another shot at that world title. But for the time being, the priority is the family. Super excited for her. Can't wait to see what that has in store for them, not only as people that we watch on our screen, but just as fans of the people themselves. Because Naomi and Jimmy are two of the most entertaining people on TV, but they seem like genuinely good people. So big congrats to them. We wait to see what will be the state of the World Championship now. We know that Stephanie Vaquer has a title matchup already clinched for Clash in Paris. I talked about this a couple streams ago where I said if Naomi is not cleared to have this matchup in Paris, you're probably going to see Io Sky, who is also in line for a championship that she never got because Naomi wasn't cleared. I think there's a really good shot that we see Io versus Stephanie, the rubber match, in Paris. I would certainly love to see it. I think it'd be a phenomenal matchup between two of the very best, not just women's wrestlers, but two of the best wrestlers in the company. Sign me up. I would love to see that. But again, big shout to Naomi and Jimmy. Ken's in the chat here. Ken says, how is that a shocking announcement? That's why I didn't have her winning Money in the Bank. But, okay. Help me out here, Ken. So you knew she was going to be pregnant prior to winning Money in the Bank? Because that was back in June. She just announced, too, on that podcast, apparently, that she's 7 weeks. And I think 7 weeks would put her, what, maybe at the beginning / mid-June, or mid-July, excuse me. Not the best in terms of math, I guess you can say. But it is a surprise. I think regardless of what it would have been, if it was an injury, obviously we know it's a pregnancy. It is a surprise. Because now it's like the State of the World Championship. Where do we go from here? There were rumblings, about her having to drop the title, whether it was due to this circumstance or that circumstance. But the fact is, that championship is now open for grabs. I think the two chief contenders, Io and Stephanie. Rhea obviously is going to be hovering around. She's always going to be involved in the world title scene. I really find it unbelievable that she's always going to be in that title scene. I don't see her ever competing for the IC or US championship. Maybe down the line. But if you ask me to book the matchup in Paris, it's going to be Io versus Stephanie. That's just how I would book it. Finally get a decisive winner between the two. And again, you give those ladies enough time. It'll deliver. It'll definitely deliver. What delivered today, though, I thought was a solid crowd. Philadelphia, historically, is a tremendous wrestling crowd. Kent says now Liv will come back. Well, Liv's not scheduled to come back until like early January. So once Liv was out with the injury, I immediately thought she's winning the Rumble. I think Liv Morgan will return, win the Rumble, and get her title match at WrestleMania. Whether she wins it or not, we'll have to wait and see. But Liv, I think, comes back and wins the Rumble. But when it comes to Naomi, she did say that she's going to be gone for 9 months and some change. So give her about a year. I'm thinking like a year. Maybe on next SummerSlam she returns. Whether that's for a match or whether she returns at the event as a surprise return. I would not be surprised if either Bianca Belair or Jade Cargill are the champion at that point in time. I think that's just an easy way to slide Naomi right back into the title scene. I think for narrative purposes, I kind of want to see Bianca versus Naomi. We never really got a decisive ending to that. Ken says she'll be gone for 16 months. Ken's got all the answers here, man. So that would put her, okay, so if we do the math here, 4 months, so what is that? September, October, November, December. So you're saying that she won't be back until December of 2026. At that point, let's just say the Rumble of 2027. So maybe she returns at the 2027 Royal Rumble event. Could she win it? I think that'd be a good spot to have her win the Rumble then. If she's out for 16 months. And January's Royal Rumble, or I guess February's, because the dates have been moving all the time. You could have her just win the Rumble and face off the champion there. But again, I do feel like for narrative reasons, it would make sense to have her go up against Bianca or Jade. Or do you even pull the trigger on a triple threat match? They've been doing a lot of multi-person championship matches lately. Whether it's, the women's title or the world title. That's when that would make sense narrative-wise. But I personally would like to see her versus just Bianca straight up. I think that matchup would deliver. Her versus Jade would be fine. But if you really want a quality matchup, no shade to Jade, I think Bianca and her would deliver a great matchup. They really do. Tyler, what's up in the chat? I see Tyler here. Appreciate you, buddy, for joining us here on a Monday night. Talking Monday Night Raw. Pro wrestling, of course, here on the J Area live stream. Appreciate you guys wherever you are, however you are listening. I appreciate that you choose your time to spend it with us here. Talking about one of the greatest forms of entertainment, but I'm just biased. In other news here on Monday Night Raw, we also had a street fight. Or I guess it was Extreme Rules. It was advertised as Extreme Rules, but really what's the difference between the two? Being that it was in Philadelphia and we have ties to ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, where one Paul Heyman was known as Paul E. Dangerously, Braun Breaker would face off against Jey Uso in an Extreme Rules match, a matchup that we obviously knew there was going to be a great amount of interference given that the Vision was present on Monday Night Raw. We saw interference by the, I was going to say the owner of the Shula Fala, right? The tribal thief, Bronson Reed. Paul Heyman was there. Seth Rollins, of course, the world's champion, was there. And as an equalizer, we saw LA Knight come out. We saw CM Punk come out. And of course, the OTC. The original tribal chief, the only tribal chief, Roman Reigns, makes again a return. Can't even say surprise return because he makes returns almost every week. But a great showing for Roman. Loved the spear that he delivered to Braun Breaker as he was making his way around the ring. I thoroughly enjoyed that Extreme Rules matchup. The result was never in doubt, especially when you have, so much interference. Jay goes over, and it appears that, I don't know if it was made official just yet, but it's definitely in line. Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns at Clash in Paris. It just makes all the sense. He took away 2 pairs of his shoes. I don't know about you, but if I'm Roman, I would like my shoes back, personally. Kent says, and after Cena, good guy run, he's going to be an agent, and I wouldn't rule out him becoming a manager. I don't know. I think Cena's done. I think Cena would not come back as an agent. I don't even think he'd be on as a manager. I think Cena would be done, with the exception of maybe a surprise appearance here and there. Whether it's just a one-off appearance or to kind of verbally put someone over and endorse them. After this run with Cena, I could believe. You never say never in wrestling. Let's get that out of the way. You never say never in wrestling. But when it comes to Cena, I could see this being his legitimate last run. And he doesn't come back for another match. Maybe one match. But I certainly don't see Cena as a manager. I cannot envision that. I don't. I think he's going to be more focused on his acting career because John, to me, is the kind of guy that doesn't want to take away, his energy towards other projects. Meaning, when he's away from pro wrestling, he's in Hollywood, focusing on his movies, focusing on his craft, becoming the best that he can be. When he's away from the movies and he's in pro wrestling, again, he's trying to deliver the best product possible for the fans. And he has said it in interviews before that this is his last run because he does not want to take away opportunities from the younger stars. And I love that about John because he was in that same boat when he first started, coming from OVW, finally getting onto SmackDown, scratching and clawing, trying to get in the main event scene and get those opportunities that guys like Kurt Angle, The Rock, The Undertaker, Brock, Triple H, all those guys were lined up with. And it was Cena having to scratch and claw and basically bide his time, wait for his opportunity to finally strike and get that main event scene. I don't see Cena, certainly not as a manager. I can't see that. Tyler asked, do you think about Jade Cargill's WWE push is finished? No, I don't. I think she will win the world title eventually. She's still very young. Keep in mind, she's been with the company for a couple of years now. I think it's far from over. I think you can put it on pause for sure, just because I feel like that was an opportunity to get her warmed up to the main event scene. Just because she didn't beat Tiffany doesn't mean that it's over. It just wasn't the right time. I could definitely see her winning the world championship at some point in the future. When are you streaming AEW Forbidden Door predictions? That's going to be on Thursday. On Thursday, I'll be streaming my predictions for AEW Forbidden Door. That will also be the same day that I do Heatwave as well. So on Thursday, great question by Tyler. It's a great opportunity to plug the next stream. I will be going live again on Thursday to give my predictions as well as hear from you guys in the chat. Hear about your predictions as well for AEW Forbidden Door, NXT Heatwave. Tonight's stream, we started about an hour later than usual. Had to stay a little bit longer for work, and that kind of cut into Monday Night Raw. So I was watching Raw on like a 1 hour delay. So I had to stay off the phone, stay off the notifications because of that 1 hour delay. And I managed to do so without any spoilers. Love it. Love not being, spoiled by anything online. But that's the reasoning why, we're going an hour later than usual. But yeah, Thursday we'll be going live again. It's already up. It's already available as a link. You should be able to see as well what time it is depending on where you are in the world and your time zones. Here on the West Coast, it is going to be a 8 o'clock p.m. live stream where we give our predictions and our analysis of every result that's taking place at Forbidden Door and NXT Heatwave. A lot of pro wrestling, dude. These last couple weeks, it seems like a never-ending train. Whether it's TNA, AEW, WWE, NXT, it never ends. There is no off season, and I love it. Kent says he'll be an agent for years till Hollywood dries up, but he said when we were kids that he would love to be our generation's Bobby Heenan, but how we were kids and then but his twin does everything they say. I don't see it though. I don't see it. John Cena as a manager and at this point in his career, I feel like John, he's even said it in interviews, he doesn't want to take away from the younger talent. If you put John as a manager, whether it's as like a general manager position for like SmackDown or Raw, or if it is a manager for a superstar like a Bobby Heenan, it takes away. I feel like it'd become too much of a distraction. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I just feel like that's not. And not only that, it's fresh. He's not even retired yet. It's still very fresh. He's not retired yet. So if I'm John, why am I gonna have a retirement tour? Retire, have my last match in December, and then immediately start already thinking about becoming a manager. It doesn't really make sense to me. I'll be the first one to say I'm wrong if it happens, but if I'm a betting man, which I am a betting man, I don't see him being a manager. I see him going to Hollywood, having a decent run. I mean, look at Peacemaker. John Cena has, I think, a lot of potential in the DCU right now, and a lot of equity with James Gunn. He could be a featured player in that universe. And for that, I don't see why he would come back to WWE as a manager. Tyler says, I think John Cena, he should be coach for NXT wrestlers. Again, I don't think on a full-time basis, but I do think like The Undertaker. I think The Undertaker is a perfect example. He's not a full-time coach or a full-time teacher, but he does make those appearances in the Performance Center, lending his expertise, the knowledge that he has gained over the course of his career. I could certainly see Cena having those sporadic appearances in the PC and giving his advice, lending the many years of experience in the main event scene to those younger crops of superstars, potential superstars. And if I'm in the Performance Center and I see a guy like John Cena roll up and is willing to spend his time, because he's a busy man, so to spend his time giving me advice, those rooms are going to be filled. And not only of NXT guys, I'm sure we'll see some other guys on the main roster, just to name a few. Those guys who have just crossed over to the main roster, people like a Carmelo Hayes, like a Braun Breaker, like those kind of guys, still very relatively young and fresh off of NXT. I know they've been there for a couple of years now, but anybody that is available and is in the vicinity of John Cena would be a fool to not take advantage of that and ask for any piece of advice or just soak up any bit of knowledge that they are able to take from a guy like John Cena, 17-time world champion, on top of the world in both the wrestling world and in Hollywood, has become a recognizable face wherever he goes. Wherever he goes, he has now reached that point. He's been at that point where you no longer know John Cena just as the wrestler. You know him because he's John Cena. Because he's been in wrestling. Because he's been in movies. Because he's that popular. So, although maybe not a full-time coach, certainly I could see him become like an ambassador. Absolutely. Tyler says, I think my issue with lazy booking for any promotion and more. Do you care to elaborate on that? I would love to get a deeper take from that. What do you mean? I think my issue with lazy booking for any promotion and more. While we get to the chat here and give people an opportunity to jump in and voice their thoughts on the state of pro wrestling, whether it's Monday Night Raw or elsewhere, keep in mind again, you can only be a part of the stream. You can only be a part of the chat by subscribing. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all things pro wrestling, as well as taking part in these streams. If you enjoy these streams, make sure you like the video and comment down below. It helps the algorithm really get familiar with the channel and help put us over big with the other wrestling channels here on YouTube. But while we're giving people a chance here, also on Monday Night Raw today, we saw an appearance by El Hijo del Vikingo, who made a surprise attack on Dirty Dominic Mysterio. So we now know, we talked about this on the last live stream. It was brought to our attention that is a possibility for Vikingo to face off against Dominic at the next Worlds Collide. I thought it was a possibility. Initially I said, you know what, I think he's going to be focusing on AJ. I still do think that we are going to have that matchup. But now it appears that following that, it will be Dominic versus Vikingo. Worlds Collide, Las Vegas. If you're going to pull the trigger on Dominic, that's where you do it. I was among the group that thought, hey, he should have won this past weekend at Triple Mania, the biggest event in Triple Mania's year, or Triple A's year. But it looks like they're going to do it at Worlds Collide. Double champion for Dominic would be huge. I've already sang his praises. I talked about him extensively on the last live stream this past weekend. We'll also have videos throughout the week. I want to try to get a little bit more of a feel for the live streams, and in doing so, we're going to take clips from each live stream and provide them here on YouTube, as well as TikTok, Instagram Reels. Which reminds me, if you aren't following us on Instagram or TikTok, you should. You get updates on the channel itself, as well as access to other videos and a way to keep growing the channel. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at jareapod_. That's at jareapod_ on both Instagram and on TikTok. Tyler says, I'm just talking about WWE's creative bankruptcy because they are the same match and everything. I think WWE needs to hire better writers and producers. I'm not hating on WWE. They're very formulaic. When you watch the same product for so long, it does get repetitive. It does. And I think that's the WWE's way. It's a machine. It runs 365 days, sometimes 366 days out of the year. So after a while, it does seem repetitive. It does seem very formulaic, especially when it comes to the factions and the stables. We've seen many a time that groups like Judgment Day, the Bloodline, the MFT, and now most recently the Vision being booked similarly every week. Every week. I do agree with that in a sense. It does get formulaic, especially on the week-to-week shows. But that's why the big money is the PLE. If you can deliver a solid PLE, which they do here and there, it's hit or miss. It's hit or miss. But the WWE right now has reached a point where CM Punk talked about it. In 2011, the pipe bomb, he said the company will make money in spite of itself. The company has now reached a point with TKO that they are the most talked about pro wrestling company ever. They are making the most money. They are garnering the biggest deals, the most views, and they can provide a subpar product. I don't think the WWE by any chance is as bad as it has been in the last decade. I think there was a period there from 2019 to 2020, 2021. It was at a low point. But when you compare it to the initial days of Triple H's regime, those years of 2022 to early 2024, that was peak. And this past WrestleMania onward, it has taken a little bit of a dive. It has taken a little bit of a dip, if you will, in terms of its, hype. So I don't think you're wrong in saying that the creative has been the same. It is very formulaic. In terms of hiring better writers and producers, I don't know about the producers. I think match wise they're fine. I think people like Michael P.S. Hayes, Abyss, Shane Helms, T.J. Wilson, even Jason Jordan are doing fine. But in terms of like creative, like the storylines, I will concede to that. I think we could use better writers and more creativity when it comes to these storylines for sure. Tyler says, "Is this same thing as AEW, right? I think AEW's creative is not bad. Same thing WWE now. I enjoy AEW pay-per-views. I think AEW pay-per-views are probably the best in terms of consistency and quality. You buy a pay-per-view for AEW, and you know what you're going to get. A lot of matches that are pretty high quality, and little to no in between. The WWE gives you like 5, 6 matches if lucky for a PLE, and then AEW gives you like 10 pay-per-view matches. It really gives you bang for your buck. What I struggle with is the weekly shows. AEW week to week, there are just some matches that I feel like have no consequence. I've said this before on previous streams where there are some matches that I feel like you could literally just skip and it would not have any ramifications in the weeks to come. For example, if I saw Big Bill and Brian Keith versus the Outrunners, and I know they're not in line for tag titles, like they're not involved in the tag title scene, I could probably skip that matchup and nothing would change my outlook on the pay-per-view. And that's what I don't like. I want every match to have some sort of stake, have some sort of ramification for the next matchup. Give me a reason to come back to the next matchup. Now, when it's time for pay-per-views and I see the AEW card, then I'm in. Because I know guys like Okada, Omega, Hangman, Moxley, Swerve, Ospreay. I can go on and on. I know that they can deliver. Tony Storm, I know they can deliver. But it's just those weekly shows. Sometimes it becomes a chore, to see. I'll be completely honest with you. I have Collision recorded. I haven't seen it yet. I'll probably watch Collision tomorrow in preparation for Dynamite, quite frankly. But I will say, creative-wise, AEW in the last year, I think, has improved. They had a bit of a lull there ever since the whole CM Punk situation. After All In 2023, to about last summer, there was a little bit of a lull where it's like, creatively it wasn't there. But now I feel like it's back. I think AEW has regained that momentum that they had lost for quite some time. And I think pro wrestling right now is in the best state it's been in years. Yes, for all the faults that WWE has in terms of its complacency and its formulaic booking, it still is a pretty good quality product. AEW, as I said, is a quality product. TNA is working. I'm not going to compare it to WWE and AEW. It's clearly the third biggest brand in North America. But again, it's not bad. It's a good alternative. I will confess, there are times that it kind of feels like WWE-ish because of that partnership. But it's still quality that I would like to enjoy. And I have. I finally bought a TNA pay-per-view. After so many years, it was my first time buying a pay-per-view when I saw Slammiversary. Also, on Monday Night Raw, Penta had a matchup against the New Day's Xavier Woods. This version of the New Day, for me, has been entertaining. I like the heel versions of them. They are funny. They're a good time. When it comes to Penta, I don't really want him associated with them. I want Penta to keep climbing up the ranks. Whether it's being involved in the IC title run, maybe a potential world title matchup, him versus Seth Rollins. I'm down. Even if for it's just an episode of Raw, I'm down for Rollins versus Penta. And now apparently he'll have a matchup against Kofi Kingston, and that'll be taking place overseas. So I believe, if memory serves, Monday Night Raw will be taking place like at 12 o'clock p.m. Arizona time, midday. So your boy's going to be at work while Raw is on. I'll catch the replay of it following, and we will probably go live at our standard time next Monday. It'll be 7 p.m. on the West Coast. It'll be Mountain Standard Time, depending on where you live and what time zone you live by. But as I mentioned, this Thursday we will be going live again for our predictions for both Forbidden Door and Heat Wave. And then on the weekend, we'll go live following both shows to give our up-to-date reactions to those. Ken says, I could see that coasting that match, but I don't believe he ruined the hat when he put it on. The hat cost him the match, but I don't believe he ruined the hat when he put it on. I don't think so either. That hat was crazy, though. I think Penta should be with his brother and Andrade make a faction. There are so many factions right now. I would be interested to see it. I'm curious how they would go about it, though. Rey Fenix and Andrade currently are a new form tag team who have been doing pretty well in SmackDown. And I don't see them breaking that up just yet. But whenever it does happen, you could easily slide Penta into that position. Maybe through some kind of shakeup or draft. Phoenix is teaming up with Penta more. Andrade becomes jealous. Attacks Penta, turns heel. Maybe he has his own tag team partner to face up against the Lucha Brothers. But at the same time, I feel like they're really trying to build up Penta's equity as a singles. I would think the same for Rey Fenix, but they put him in a tag team with Andrade, so it's like, I don't know if they see the same thing in Rey as they do as Penta. Certainly, whenever that tag team reforms, I will be excited. The Lucha Brothers are one of my favorite tag teams since seeing their work in TNA, obviously AEW. Do you think another Lucha Underground could pop up? I don't know what the standing is with the original Lucha Underground. I think for sure it would be very beneficial for a lot of the wrestlers that are looking for work, for stable work. Lucha Underground was such an imaginative, creative, and unique form of wrestling. You know, the way that they shot the show, the presentation, the storylines. We saw a lot of quality stars in Lucha Underground. Names that are very familiar. Prince Puma, Ricochet, Killer Cross, Swerve, Io, Penta, Chelsea Green was there, John Morrison, Rey Mysterio, and so many other superstars that I haven't named. That was a launching pad for a lot of them. Because from there, people were jumping to NXT. They were jumping to Impact. And would regain prominence in AEW and WWE now. Do I think it would pop up again? I don't think so. I would like it to. I don't think so. What I would think is more likely is, let's say like Netflix gets access to the original Lucha Underground run and is able to replay the reruns. I think that would be great, because then you can reintroduce the casual fan to Lucha Underground, build up a little bit of noise, and maybe that could lead to the revitalization of Lucha Underground. And it would make sense for Netflix to be the one to do it. I guess HBO Max could do it, but hear me out when it comes to Lucha Underground on Netflix. They already have that 10-year deal signed with the WWE. And they're already monopolizing pro wrestling as it is, being that they bought AAA and are working with TNA. So you bring Lucha Underground on Netflix, you get the casual fans into Monday Night Raw, you have Unreal as a major docu-series that apparently has been renewed for season 2 next year. You bring in Lucha Underground, people see it and they think, oh, pro wrestling, they're thinking WWE, but they're exposed to NXT, or they're exposed to Lucha Underground on Netflix. You build up that hype because you're already working with WWE, you get Lucha Underground involved. Maybe Netflix can make a deal and revitalize Lucha Underground that way. So now they have two promotions. They have the biggest one in WWE and one of the most creative ones in Lucha Underground, and potentially maybe form some kind of alliance in TKO. I'm not a fan of monopolizing all promotions and having them owned by the same company, but I think that would be a possibility if Netflix were to gain the rights to Lucha Underground. I suppose, I appreciate that, Tyler. I suppose HBO Max could do it too because they have the AEW rights, and again, pro wrestling, it all comes together. But I feel like Netflix would be the more likely destination over an HBO Max. Other than that, I don't know who else would pick it up. Because Lucha Underground didn't last for that long. If I'm not mistaken, was it like 2 or 3 seasons? If I'm not mistaken, I'm actually curious. I wasn't able to see the whole run of Lucha Underground. It was 4 seasons, 127 episodes. I want to see if it was on El Rey Network in the US. But like I want to know what's the standings on the actual distribution of Lucha Underground. Cuz Lucha Underground, like I was saying, you're going to see me looking at like the bright screen here, had a lot of stars. I mean, let's look into the roster. If you just listen to the roster that Lucha Underground used to have, when it was a thing. Aerostar was there, Brian Cage, Johnny Mundo, aka John Morrison, Jake Hager was there, Conan, Angelico MVP, Jeff Cobb, Swerve, Phoenix, Penta, PJ Black, Wes Lee, Chavo Guerrero was there, Taya Valkyrie, Dr. Wagner Jr., aka El Hijo del Dr. Wagner, Hernandez, Vampiro, Killer Cross, Dreamer, and of course, there was plenty of guest appearances by other stars as well. Kent says that they're basically a monopoly on it now, with a Khan being behind AEW and another behind TKO. How ironic is it, too, that the two major figureheads of both respective companies are being run by a Khan? Obviously Nick Khan running WWE as the president of TKO, and Tony Khan running AEW. Or excuse me, I don't believe Nick Khan's the president of TKO. He's just an executive producer or executive president for the WWE. Shout out to Muhammad in the chat. I see you, buddy. Says hello and happy late on a Monday night. Appreciate you, buddy. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully this weekend has treated you well, and the week ahead will treat you even better. Glad and appreciative and honored that you guys choose to spend your time here with us on a Monday night following Monday Night Raw. As a reminder, we will be going live Thursday evening to share our predictions for both Forbidden Door and for Heat Wave. And on the weekend, following those shows, we'll give our reaction to both events. I am not a fan I am not a fan of the counter programming because I don't know how I'm going to schedule that to watch Heatwave and Forbidden Door. We're going to see how we do that. So I haven't committed to both shows just yet. Keep in mind and keep on the lookout. Keep your notifications on so you're aware of all the updates regarding the streams and on the lives, because these counter programming, man, I would love to watch every minute of pro wrestling, but having them go simultaneously really throws a wrench in the plans. Muhammad says Naomi's pregnancy isn't that surprising. I'll be 100% honest with you, Muhammad. For you and I, and other people in the chat like Tyler and Kent, it may not be as surprising. But that's the business of the YouTube. I gotta put something like shocking, It's basically clickbait. Basically clickbait. Trying to get outsiders in. It may not be a surprise for you and I, but it's a surprise for somebody out there. And if that allows them the ever ounce of introducing a little bit of intrigue and interest and enticing them to push play on this video, I will certainly put shocking. Tyler says, I think the WWE and TKO is definitely playing Monopoly because they buy a AAA and maybe buy TNA and has WWE Evolve and WWE ID program. Oh, it's definitely Monopoly. They've monopolized pro wrestling. They've become the Disney of pro wrestling, where Disney has bought everything. They have their hands on ESPN. They have their hands on Marvel. They have their hands on ABC. There's so much that is ran with Disney. They bought Fox. Yeah, absolutely. If they have the money and they have the means to spend, they will buy everything. So they bought AAA. I would not be surprised if later down the line they bought TNA. They're already working with them cohesively. There's also that deal, the partnership in place right now. Again, rumors and reports, so we can only take it with a grain of salt. But apparently there's a rumor that in that deal, in the agreement between the WWE and TNA, if a company were to be interested in purchasing Total Nonstop Action, they would have to go through the WWE first, because they reserve the right for a potential buyout. And that's crazy, that they could actually match a contract and just buy TNA. But it's for the WWE. For pro wrestling, it may suck. I'll be 100% honest with you. It may suck because that means one company is controlling so much. But for the WWE, it is smart, because now you're creating a feeder into your company. You're creating more revenue, more intrigue into the sport that we are enjoying. They have the ID program to the indies as a feeder into WWE Evolve, and then Evolve feeds into NXT, and NXT, feeds into TNA and vice versa, which then feeds into the main roster, and then you have AAA, who's feeding into the main roster. So there is this chain of command of pro wrestling, certainly within the WWE. And if they were to buy other promotions, because think about it this way, with the ID program as well, they're working already with Booker T's Reality of Wrestling, Rikishi's Wrestling School, the Nightmare Factory. They have so much different avenues to get to the main roster. It is an opportunity for not only the WWE to continue to grow and succeed, but it's an opportunity for these aspiring pro wrestlers to reach the top of the mountain, which is the WWE. Whether people like it or not, the WWE is the end game. Say what you want about AEW. They are the next alternative. They are the best piece of competition the WWE has gotten in years. But just like Mariah May, aka Blake Monroe, the dream is to get the WWE. So whether we like monopolizing it or not, it's a fact of life. It's a fact of life. Is Heatwave actually happening? I know that it has been discussed for a while now. Heatwave's taking place this Sunday. Heatwave is this Sunday. It'll be simultaneously taking place as Forbidden Door. Tyler says, I'm just worried about small pro wrestling businesses. I mean, I don't think like the indies, like let's say for example, in Arizona, they have their own indie promotion for pro wrestling. Those companies I don't see being affected. It's more so of like the bigger companies, TNA, GCW, the NWA. Those could end up being monopolized. I think potentially down the line, or some kind of partnership. And it might be just a full-on territory for the WWE. Because back in the day, obviously, I don't have to explain to you guys. You guys are diehard fans. Back in the day, there was the National Wrestling Alliance, the territories that spanned across the the United States, and there was that understanding that you don't cross this territory, you don't cross this territory. That's their business. And the WWE with Vince McMahon ended up buying out these promotions and crossing that line, buying the competition. We're now seeing that basically happening again with these, larger promotions. Only ones I don't see in the monopoly is JCW won't ever be sold out to the cons on either side. Yeah, I would be surprised to see how long a lot of these promotions can hold out. And I'm not saying the WWE is going to buy everything or TKO is not going to buy everything, but there's a shot at those other promotions. Mama Ramos in the chat says, if my memory is correct, I called her pregnancy even before it was a rumor. I'd have to give her credit. She did. We were watching the show, and her and Rhea were in the ring together. And she had said, like, she's pregnant. And I don't know how she called it, but she called it. I will give credit to her. Muhammad says, AEW's third show, and do you think Jericho will actually show up this Sunday, or going back to WWE? I heard that he was liking a WWE post. I don't think Jericho is going back just yet. He will go back eventually. They always go back. They always go back. Look at Punk, Bret Hart. They always go back. Muhammad's referring to the post in which it was Jericho and a possible reunion with the WWE. He liked the post on social media. Of course, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't think he's going next. I think he'll go back to AEW and finish out his contract there. I could definitely see him make a return to the WWE. He has said in the past he doesn't mind not going in the Hall of Fame. Because as far as he's concerned, he's already in, he says. But let's be real. Everybody wants to finish their career there. The majority, I should say. Jericho goes back. Maybe within the next year. Maybe this time next year he's already back. Who knows? But I think he'll go back to AEW first. And then finish his contract. And then finish his career in the Fed. Good point by Muhammad there. Thank you for the comment. Ken says, I can guarantee that JCW won't sell because owner of JCW is a real good friend of mine. That reminds me, I'll send you an email later. Shoot, go for it. That's why the email's there. If you guys want to email the channel at any time, the email is in the description of the channel as well as in the description of each video. It's at jareawrestling@gmail.com. If you ever want to email us here with any question, comments, or anything like that, feel free to email us there. But yeah, as we begin to start bringing the stream to a close, I will plug the email one more time, jareawrestling@gmail.com. You can also follow us on TikTok, on Instagram, at jareapod_. That's at jareapod_ on Instagram and TikTok. We'll be going live again on Thursday, doing our predictions for Forbidden Door and for Heat Wave. Gabs in the chat says, hey, my friend, long time no see. How's it going, Gabs? Appreciate you stopping by on the stream. We're just talking about Monday Night Raw. Of course, the big news being that Naomi and Jimmy Uso will be welcoming in a baby in the next coming months. Big congrats to them. We talked about what would happen to the world title. I said in the past, if Naomi wasn't going to be able to compete in Paris, to me, it would make logical sense to have Io and Stephanie have that matchup. They already had a couple matches up in the past. Both did not have a conclusive victor. I feel like this is the rubber match to get a definitive winner between those two. Would be great. Stephanie and Io, two of the best wrestlers on the roster. I would love to see it. But again, I appreciate Gabs in the chat here. A longtime friend of the channel, a longtime supporter as well of the venture, and I appreciate you very much. As I do with everybody here who chooses to spend their time hanging out with us here on YouTube, talking about pro wrestling. Once again, I'll plug Thursday's live stream. We'll be going live Thursday evening, talking about the predictions for Forbidden Door, AEW's latest pay-per-view, as well as NXT's latest PLE Heatwave. And then at some point in the weekend, we'll be going live again. I've said it before. I don't like the counter programming because I have to choose. I really don't want to have to choose. If it was up to me, I'm watching everything. But if it happens at the same time, I can't do it. I've seen some people watch like a pay-per-view on their TV and have their phone out watching a separate show. I can't do that, man. I gotta be able to dedicate my attention to one or the other. If I'm not watching, one and I'm watching the other, it's a disservice, I think. I feel like they have both earned my attention. So I'm not a fan of the petty counter programming. Gab says, I noticed the 7 next to you. Keep doing what you love. I enjoy watching your posts. Life gets busy sometimes, but I'm always here to support you. I appreciate that, Gabs. I really do. And I mean, yeah, we got the 7,000 next to us. The next milestone is 8. The goal was to get to 10. Actually, no, the goal was to get to 5,000 by the end of this year. And we're at 7. It's just been awesome. An awesome ride that has been very fulfilling. Being able to pursue something like this that you're passionate about and that you enjoy talking about and you don't get tired about talking about, and to see the leaps and bounds that we have taken these last few months has been very encouraging. So the original goal was to hit 5K by the end of the year. We now double it, and the goal is to hit 10K by the end of 2025. I think it's very possible. If we continue the trajectory that we're on, I could certainly see that being the case even before the end of the year. You said that life gets busy sometimes, but I'm always here to support you. I appreciate that so much. And I get it. Yeah, life can be a roller coaster. Sometimes you have plans, but life has different plans for you. And that's why whenever I pop up here on YouTube and I'm on live, I always try to make it a habit of thanking you guys for choosing to spend your time here with us. Because I know we all have our commitments outside of this, whether it's family, relationships, work, school, our own, inner turmoil. It's just so rewarding to know that there's people out there as invested in the same thing as me. So again, just thank you. Just thank you so much for everything. Reese, I see you in the chat as well. What's up? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you back here. A little bit of a late stream today. I was talking about earlier how I had an extended shift at work. Had to stay a little bit later than I would have liked, but it's no problem. Responsibility, right? And so that cut into Monday Night Raw. So I was like on an hour delay with Monday Night Raw, which pushed the stream an hour back. So a little bit later than usual, but that's okay. We're here. Kent says, loved when Io got upset with everybody sticking their nose in her business. Facts. Io Sky is the coolest. She's the best. She's my favorite on the roster right now. I want her to stick up for herself and not have everyone in her business as well as fighting around her. Like, dude, Io's just trying to win the championship. She's trying to keep her business. Tyler says, JCW reminds me of Attitude Era and ECW. What a wild time. What a wild time, right? Kent says it's meant to. Hope Mama Ramos is doing better. For the most part. I mean, you take it day by day. I know for a fact I will never shy away from giving praise to my parents, my biggest supporters, my biggest fans, and I would hazard to think where I would be if it wasn't for them, and I'm very grateful for them in my life. So I appreciate you asking about her and just checking in. I appreciate that. I miss when you talked about the dark side of the wrestling. Yeah, no, that was a cool time. That I'll be quite honest. The dark side of the wrestling stuff was some of the fun that I had, the most fun I had with those live streams, because it gave me an opportunity to go back and relearn these older stories. I thought about going back and doing it. In my mind, I envisioned doing it like seasonal. So it wasn't like every week and then we reach the end of it and it's like, what now? Right? But I would love to go back and start doing that. I focused more so like on the current events with obviously pro wrestling. And around that time where I kind of stopped doing the dark side of wrestling, that was like in a shift of work. I had just changed jobs and my schedule kind of got like thrown all out of proportion, and it was cutting into the time that I would spend recording, editing, and on top of that having to go back and rewatch the Dark Side of the Ring episodes, researching, writing out my notes. And just recently I've felt that I've gone back into the swing of things in terms of planning and organizing. I've really prioritized the live streams as of late. I'm sure you guys can tell on the channel. I haven't uploaded the videos as frequently as I used to. But yeah, if the demand is there and people want to hear more about the dark side of the wrestling, I would love to do it. I just recently watched an episode of Dark Side. It was on YouTube, like a full episode of Daphne. For those who aren't familiar with Daphne, she was very prominent in WCW and TNA, and her battle with bipolar and depression and how that affected her pro wrestling career. A very fascinating tale, especially when it comes to concussions and CTE. So if that's something that we're very interested in, maybe I could do one. I don't want to commit to it because again things change. Ideally once or twice a month I could do it. Maybe like once every other week, every other Thursday, because it was a Thursday stream, and I kind of like that idea of having it on Thursday because it was like a throwback Thursday type of deal. So I'll look into it and we'll bring it back. Because again, I've always said if you guys want it, let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments. You guys are the boss at the end of the day. If that's what you want, I will make sure to bring that out. So I'll go back and see the listings of episodes, and we'll throw up a poll, and we'll do one. We'll do one. If you can dress up as a wrestler, who would you dress up as? I think the easy answer is Austin. I really do. I did for one episode, for 1 year at Halloween. I had dressed up as The Rock, specifically the infamous picture where he had the turtleneck and the chain, and like you remember how he had like the towel underneath his arm. Like I had dressed up as him for Halloween like a couple years back. I'll look for the picture and I'll throw it up on the community tab and show. But I had dressed up as The Rock. I think Austin for sure would be an easy one, just because of the shaved head. But because of the beard, I think it'd be pretty cool to have The Undertaker, specifically WrestleMania 30. When he had the shaved head, he had like a little mohawk, but he had the beard kind of pointed. I think that look was pretty cool because it was like a throwback to the Ministry of Darkness. But again, for an easy answer, Austin Taker from WrestleMania 30. And also, I want to be like, I want to make it seem, as faithful to the wrestler. Because me dressing up as like, I don't know, let's throw out someone, Eddie Guerrero, I don't think is as accurate I don't know. It wouldn't be as accurate, I think. But aside from them, I'm trying to think of it. San Fran was Sting not too long ago, and I thought he pulled it off really nicely. But it's because he has hair. He has like a little bit longer hair, and it just works. You know, he had the white paint, a little bit of black on there. It just worked. I would like to, but it's like I would need a wig to pull that off. You know what I mean? But to answer that, Gabs, probably Austin or Taker. Those Ray, I think, would be an easy one too because I would just throw on a mask. And if I got to choose which version of Ray, um, he has had so many cool gear throughout the years. I mean, how can you not say the Phantom at Halloween Havoc in '97? That one is an obvious go-to. One that I really enjoyed was the Wolverine when he was competing at All In 2018. That was a really good one. The Flash at WrestleMania 20 was good. But his Spider-Man gear in 2002 might be one of my favorites. Just because, again, I'm biased. I'm biased for Spider-Man. Great question there, Gabs. I appreciate that. Let me know what are some of your favorites in the chat, too. If there's someone that you would like to dress up as, or if you ever dressed up as anybody, share it as well. Kansas, I could see you pulling off being Mean Gene. I love that. That's a good one. Mean Gene, Howard Finkel, those two would be awesome. Hell, give me, Jesse Ventura back in the day. I love Jesse Ventura. But Mean Gene's a good one. I've always found him so fascinating and so entertaining. His little quips, while backstage interviewing, those moments where he was off the cuff and like talking to people off camera. One of the most infamous ones where he's like in the middle of an interview and like mid sentence he points off camera, turn that cigarette off, or you know what I mean? Like, I love it, man. The Mean Gene one's cool. I take that as a compliment personally. I think that's great. Mean Gene's a good one. Like I said, Howard Finkel, one of the greatest ring announcers of all time. I think it's super cool though. Whenever I watch, whether it's pro wrestling or boxing, those people who are able to project their voice and be a ring announcer and announce the competitors to the ring, I think that's super cool. Like if I could, I would do that. I don't know if I have as strong of a voice as them to be doing that, but settling for and I shouldn't say settling, because what Mean Gene did was phenomenal, Hall of Fame worthy, of course. But if that's what I were to do, that's not bad either. That's not bad at all. Muhammad in the chat says this past Friday, Sami Zayn announced, by the way, Sami Zayn will be an uncle. He is moving to SmackDown from Raw. Do you think he will give SmackDown a boost? I think so. I think Sami Zayn has become one of the more beloved members of the roster. Just because, one, in ring-wise, he can go. He's one of the best. But also in terms of that personality, the chemistry he has, that connection he has with the audience is so genuine to me, I think. I would like to think it would give it a boost. It certainly would have a level of investment. I now have another reason to watch SmackDown because I'm such a big fan of Sami. And I hope to see him, involved with some of the big players on SmackDown. I would like to think so, Muhammad. Ken says, vocal training all you're lacking. I mean, yeah, sure. Especially in that realm of a profession. They're so great at what they do, they make it look easy. But of course, there's a level of training to it. If it was easy, anybody could do it, but not anybody can do it. John Cena and Randy Orton, not going to be on SmackDown every week, and I can definitely see why. Randy, I mean, It's just until he gets to his next story. John only has like, what is it, 7 appearances left. So we got to cherish every single bit that we have with him. Because before you know it, John's going to be gone. And I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him for sure. John was such a big proponent of my childhood, as many of us growing up watching. Whether you were booing or cheering him, you wanted to watch John Cena. So, whenever that time comes, in December, his last match, oh, you know it's going to be such an emotional ride to see him one last time. I'm so glad they turned him babyface again. That heel run to me wasn't it. It could have been so much better. But that's with hindsight being 2020. We now have a little under 4 months left with John. Let's try to appreciate every moment we have left. Muhammad says we don't have a lot of legends yet. I mean, because we're still building. You can argue the biggest stars right now. I mean, Roman, Seth, Cody. You know, just to name a few. But in terms of like Cena's legends, like that era, John's about to retire. Randy, I would see in a couple of years. Rey Mysterio is another one. Rey Mysterio is another one. Shawn Taker and Triple H all retired already. Angle's gone. Is it really just Randy, John, and Ray? Who am I? There's got to be other people I'm missing from that era, at least. I appreciate you guys. I really do. Again, as always, CM Punk and Brock Lesnar. How could I not? Yeah, Brock Lesnar and Punk. I'm surprised I didn't even think of Punk, and he's like one of my favorites. As you can see, he's over here. How did I not think of Punk? But I think it's because I'm so like hung up in like that 2002 to 2005 era. Triple H is still around. But I mean, I think what Muhammad maybe means is active, you know, and still competing. Triple H isn't competing. Shelton Benjamin, true, but not prominently. And I guess I'm thinking more like WWE. Would you put Shelton Benjamin as a legend, though? Like, I think he's great, don't get me wrong. But to me, it's like you have your Rays, your Cenas, you know, Randy, Brock, Punk, and then Shelton's like a few tiers down. Not in terms of talent. I think Shelton's super talented. But I just mean in terms of like career legacy. You know, look at a guy like, again, with all due respect, Tito Santana. Back in the 80s and the 90s, Tito Santana was seen as a reliable hand that was solid in the ring. But we don't look at him in the same light as like a Randy Savage or as like a Bret Hart, Roddy Piper. Like there's a clear distinction in the tiers there. Shelton Benjamin's a great hand, great in the ring. But again, I don't think I would put him in the same, you know, vein. I did think about Bobby Lashley, but again, Lashley kind of came in a few years later, so for me there's like that gap. But yeah, you can put Lashley in there. Sure. I think he would be in a tier under Ray, Punk, Cena, Lashley, Orton, all those guys I just named, and a tier above Shelton, like right in between there. Right in between, I think, personally. But that's just me. As we begin to start unwinding here on YouTube, guys, again, once again, appreciate you guys choosing to spend your time here with us on YouTube. You can... How did I not think of Edge? I think it's because I'm so focused on WWE. But yeah, Muhammad's right. Edge, Christian, for sure. Definitely. Great call out there. Jericho even. Yeah, we talked about Jericho earlier, but Jericho certainly would be on that list. But yeah, I guess not. If there's one thing to take away from tonight's stream, it's to enjoy the time that we have with these legends while we do. Right? Naomi, maybe not as a legend yet, but we should have enjoyed her time with her now that she's going to be gone. Hardy Boys is a good call out there by Kent. But with all these legends that we have, enjoy them while we can, man. Enjoy them while we can. Guys, I'll see you on Thursday. We'll be going live again, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, to give our predictions and analysis for Forbidden Door and for Heat Wave. We'll also be going live during the weekend as well. Shout out to Gabs as well for bringing out the interest in Darkseid. We could start doing that again. What we could do, because Darkseid recently released their full season on Hulu. So if you have Hulu, lock in. We could go episode by episode. And then when the next season happens, we'll be all caught up. But again, I'll put up a poll. I think I know the answer to the poll, but still, I would like to see it visually from you guys on who would be interested in bringing back Dark Side of the Ring, the live stream series that we did here on Thursdays. Of course, you guys can find me on Instagram and on TikTok. TikTok. That's why I can't be an announcer, because I got this damn stutter. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, at jareapod_. Continue to like the videos and comment down below. Help out with the algorithm and trying to put us over as one of the best pro wrestling channels here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That way you can stay up to date with all things pro wrestling and to take part in these live streams and voice your questions, your comments in the chat. Of course, this wouldn't be possible without any of you guys. We're at 7,000 now, on the road to 8,000, trying to get to 10 by the conclusion of 2025. With that being said, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. I hope you all have a great night. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I will see you guys on Thursday for the next edition of the J Area Wrestling Show. Everyone, take care, be safe, and be good people. We'll see you Thursday. Appreciate and love all you guys. Thank you so much.